There is someone in your life who smiles every single time you enter the room, and yet there is a cold weight in that smile that your gut has been reading for months. You have sat across from this person, shared something that mattered, a plan, a victory, a fear, and watched their expression arrange itself into something that looked like care, while something behind their eyes filed the information away for later. You were not being paranoid. You were being perceptive, and they have spent years training you to treat those two things as the same, because a man who cannot trust his own instincts is the easiest man in the room to control. The cruelest thing concealed hatred does is wear the mask of loyalty without a single visible seam. This is the Stoic revenant. Most people learn Stoicism to feel better. We study it to become dangerous. We do not talk about inner peace while the world around you demands strength. We go where others do not dare, into the dark side of the mind, where betrayal is not a wound, but a forge. There are 7 distinct patterns that reveal an enemy wearing the face of a brother. The first is the delayed congratulation, your victory met with days of silence, followed by a flat sentence with no warmth, because your rise is an uncomfortable mirror to their stagnation. The second is competitive minimizing. Every time you share pain, they immediately produce a larger tragedy of their own, pulling the gravity of the room back toward themselves so your suffering feels like an overreaction. The third is public undermining, quietly reshaping your words or correcting your smallest mistakes in front of others with the gentle precision of someone who has learned that slow erosion leaves no obvious marks. The fourth is their long memory for your failures. They forget your victories by afternoon, yet carry your worst moments for years. Waiting for the exact conversation where dropping them serves the narrative they have been quietly building about who you are. The fifth is the advice that follows your success, telling you how you could have done it better within minutes of your win, so your achievement arrives already dressed in the clothing of a mistake. The sixth is absence when it counts, loud and visible when everything is going well, unreachable the moment real support is needed in private. And the seventh, the most dangerous, conditional loyalty. Support that vanishes the moment standing beside you costs them a single coin of comfort. But here is what nobody tells you about these 7 signs. Knowing them changes nothing, unless you understand the one counter move that looks from the outside exactly like surrender. A face came to your mind while I was naming these signs. You did not choose it. It arrived without permission because the body recognizes betrayal long before the mind is willing to accept it. Write mask in the comments, not as a gesture, but as an acknowledgement that you are done being the last one in the room to see clearly. Most people react with visible heat the moment they feel concealed contempt. They answer hidden hatred with obvious anger, or a silence so loud the entire room can locate the wound. And this hands your enemy a precise map of your interior world, telling them exactly which territory to strike next. Seneca wrote, "He who is everywhere is nowhere," meaning the man who makes every reaction visible has scattered himself so completely that nothing remains beyond reach. The counter move is the construction of a fortress of strategic illegibility. You remain warm on the surface, present in the room, while the most consequential dimensions of who you are and where you are going remain completely inaccessible. When you stay calm towards someone who secretly works against you, while seeing their heart with perfect clarity, you become the most dangerous presence in the room, because they are performing for a judge who has already seen behind the curtain. So the real question is not whether they envy you in secret. The question is, what does your stillness cost them? It costs them their map, their leverage, the only advantage they ever had, an intimate knowledge of your reactions, and without it, their concealed hatred becomes a weapon with no target, spending itself in the dark against a wall it can no longer find. The deep ocean does not tremble regardless of the storm screaming across its surface. Deep below, the water is so vast and so still that the chaos of the world simply cannot reach it. And the man who builds this depth within himself becomes something others cannot navigate, because they have been trained their entire lives to find the target by watching the reaction, and he has removed the reaction entirely. Epictetus wrote, "Silence is safer than speech, and men who have never been hunted read that as timidity. But the man who has felt the cold weight of a smile that arrived half a second too late understands it as doctrine, because the enemy who cannot read you cannot strategize against you, and the enemy who cannot strategize against you is already defeated, still smiling, still performing, still waiting for a reaction that will never come from a man who has already decided to become a fortress." Tonight, choose one person whose support has never felt entirely real and share nothing new with them this week. No new plan, no new ambition, no new fear. Give their intelligence operation nothing fresh to work with, and then watch what happens in the space between their words and their eyes when the information stops flowing. Because in those 2 seconds before the performance reassembles itself, the truth of what they were actually doing with everything you gave them will show itself with a clarity no confrontation could have produced. Frame this as a test of yourself, a test of whether you have the discipline to become, in this one dimension, deliberately less knowable, because the man who controls what he reveals controls the entire architecture of every relationship he is in. Try it once. Then you will understand why they fear the quiet. Let them keep their smiles. Let the performance continue while you watch from the stillness of someone who no longer needs it to stop. You have learned to read their game without ever becoming a piece on their board. And now their concealed hatred is not a wound. It is data. Let them misread the silence. Let them celebrate too early. Let them mistake your stillness for weakness. This is the Stoic revenant. Silence is armor.